Bakhtiar Sanov and you're watching A News Now. Let's take a look at today's top stories. Donald Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff to meet Putin for the peace plan discussion. Israeli forensic services have identified the remains of a deceased Israeli hostage returned from Gaza as those of Dror Or. And Brazil's former president to start 27-year prison sentence for coup plot. In related developments, Ukraine sat down with European partners on Tuesday for a coalition of the willing meeting, seeking stronger security commitments as Washington intensifies its push to wrap up a peace agreement. The United States has entered a new stage in its bid to help secure a Russia-Ukraine peace deal, sending envoys back to Kiev and Moscow following a week of high-level negotiations in Geneva.
Right now, when it comes to security, there is nothing to divide.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he's ready to advance a US-backed framework for ending the war with Russia and discuss disputed points with US President Donald Trump in talks he said should include European allies. He made the comment in his speech at a virtual meeting with senior leaders and representatives from the Coalition of the Willings, 35 member states, on Tuesday.
The 23rd of November.
The gathering was co-chaired by French President Emmanuel Macron, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz.
That's the driving purpose.
During the discussion, leaders reaffirmed their unwavering support for Ukraine and stressed the need for a just and lasting peace. President Zelensky said any future settlement must be backed by robust and credible security guarantees for Ukraine.
We cannot relax or forget that Ukraine still needs defense support, security support of our resilience every day. And as long as Russia has not taken real steps toward demobilization, real steps to shut down its war machine, steps that would clearly show that Russia is serious about ending this war of aggression, we do not have the right to stop working to support Ukraine. We must protect lives, strengthen air defense.
Frozen Russian assets were also a key point of discussion. Starmer said the UK was ready to move with the European Union on providing financial support to Ukraine based on the value of immobilized Russian assets.
We need to keep the pressure on Russia. We must move forward with a full embargo of Russian energy. We, the UK, are ready to move with the EU on providing financial support based on the value of the immobilized assets. This is the best way to show Putin he should negotiate rather than trying to outweight us.
Meanwhile, Macron announced a new joint task force led by France and the UK with US and Turkish participation to define the detailed terms of Europe's military support in a future peace deal.
Nous avons décidé d'avancer tout particulièrement sur deux choses dans les prochains jours.
We have to have a reassurance force that will consolidate this Ukrainian army as a second curtain. On this, we decided to launch a working group from tomorrow, driven by France and Great Britain, in close association with Turkey, which plays a key role in the maritime aspect, and, for the first time, with an involvement of the United States of America. The following days will allow us to very precisely finalize the contributions of each one and to have these security guarantees finalized.
Leaders wrapped up the meeting by underscoring their continued unity and commitment to supporting Ukraine, saying lasting peace will depend on firm pressure on Russia and solid security guarantees for Kyiv.
US and Russian officials held their first round of talks in Abu Dhabi on Monday and the second meeting on Tuesday. It's part of Washington's push to finalize its latest peace plan for Ukraine. Driscoll flew to the UAE from Geneva on Monday morning, becoming the senior US representative in the discussions with the Russian delegation. US officials say only a few delicate but not insurmountable details remain in the draft proposal. A Ukrainian delegation is also in Abu Dhabi party, and Driscoll has been in direct contact with them as the negotiations continue.
Such productions who said at the very beginning.
Now, against the backdrop of the peace developments, Russia says it has carried out large-scale strikes on Ukraine's energy infrastructure overnight, using long-range precision weapons in response to recent Ukrainian attacks. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, the assault included hypersonic missiles as well as attack drones. Moscow claims the strikes targeted Ukraine's defense industry and the energy facilities that support it. Kiev says there were extensive power outages and damage to civilian areas in Kiev and surrounding areas. Israel has identified the remains of Dror Or, an Israeli hostage whose body was handed over on Tuesday by Hamas and Islamic Jihad, the Prime Minister's office said on Wednesday. Or and his family were sheltering in their home in Kibbutz Be'eri during the October 7, 2023 attack, when militants set the house on fire. Israeli officials say Or and his wife were killed as they tried to escape. Militants took Or's body to Gaza, along with two of his children, who were later released in the November 2023 hostage deal. To global disasters now, countries across several continents are dealing with severe natural events, from widespread flooding in Southeast Asia to destructive storms in Brazil and the United States.
Floods have affected 9 provinces in Thailand, 8 states in Malaysia and parts of Indonesia, leading to evacuations of nearly 45,000 people. Thailand has declared its southern Songkhla province a disaster zone after heavy rainfall left thousands stranded and at least 33 people dead. More than 2 million people in Thailand have been affected by the floods, but just 13,000 have been moved to shelters. Authorities in Thailand are using helicopters to evacuate critically ill patients from a hospital in Hat Yai. Floods and landslides killed at least 13 people and injured dozens after torrential rain struck Indonesia's island of Sumatra. Torrential rain has hit the region for several days, flooding parts of multiple districts since Monday. Heavy rainfall and flooding also damaged 330 houses and displaced 2,244 people in several areas. In neighbouring Malaysia, flooding from days of heavy rain swept through 8 states, with forecasters predicting more rain in the region in the coming days. Natural disasters are also hitting other parts of the world. A hailstorm left 246 people injured and caused infrastructure damage in the south of Brazil. Hailstones damaged vehicles and roofs as over 10,000 families were affected. Extraordinary footage captures a property being pummeled by hailstones described as baseball-sized. Severe weather has also struck the US. A tornado ripped through Willowbrook, Texas, leaving behind damaged homes and downed trees. First responders are actively searching for any injured or trapped residents. The storm left around 28,000 people without power in the Houston area. On Tuesday, lava was seen spewing out of Kilauea volcano after one of the world's most active volcanoes erupted again in Hawaii. Lava fountained at approximately 400 feet as ash and smoke spewed into the air. According to the United States Geological Survey, this is the 37th time Kilauea has erupted since December 2024.
To a political storm now, as Brazil's former president Jair Bolsonaro has been ordered to start serving his 27-year sentence. The far-right populist governed Latin America's largest democracy from 2019 until 2022 and was convicted for plotting a coup.
Brazil's Supreme Court has ordered that former President Jair Bolsonaro begin serving his 27-year prison sentence for plotting a coup after his 2022 election loss. Justice Alexandre de Moraes ruled the case has reached its final judgment and that no further appeals are possible, meaning the 70-year-old will start his term in a federal police jail cell in Brasilia, where he has been held since Saturday. The four judges, Alexandre de Moraes, Flavio Dino, Cristiano Zanin and Carmen Lucia, said Bolsonaro poses a flight risk and has repeatedly violated court orders. The ruling ends more than 100 days of house arrest. Authorities said Bolsonaro used a soldering tool on his ankle monitor ahead of a planned supporters' vigil outside his home, which the court said could disrupt police surveillance. In a custody hearing, he claimed medication-induced paranoia and hallucinations that led him to believe the device was wiretapped and denied any intent to flee. Justice Flavio Dino wrote that Bolsonaro's admission of tampering shows a clear violation of judicial measures and increases the risk of escape. Federal police have also previously reported that he considered seeking asylum abroad. Outside the federal police headquarters, left-wing activists celebrated the ruling, while supporters demanded amnesty and insisted the former president is the target of political persecution.
French authorities have arrested a fourth person in connection with the jewel heist at the Louvre Museum in October, where a gang stole $102 million. The suspects, 2 men and 2 women from the Paris region, include a 39-year-old believed to be the gang's fourth member. Authorities say the stolen jewels have not yet been recovered. Meanwhile, 3 other suspects were previously arrested and charged with theft and criminal conspiracy. The UK government is preparing for one of its most closely watched budgets in years, as Chancellor Rachel Reeves finalises plans to address rising living costs and a widening fiscal gap. It's expected she will announce tax hikes and cuts in spending.
Labour is the party of
UK's Chancellor Rachel Reeves is likely to announce tens of billions of pounds of new tax increases when she presents her budget on Wednesday. It's set to put her credibility on the line, both with bond investors and with lawmakers demanding more welfare spending. She's expected to raise billions in new taxes to fill a £20 billion gap after weaker growth forecasts. It's expected that the minimum wage will increase for the over 20s to £12.71. That shall freeze rail fares for the first time in 30 years, as well as cuts to green levies. And there have been calls to end the 2-child benefit cap, which could add about £3 billion a year to government spending. Meanwhile, the Chancellor's decision to drop plans for an income tax rise has raised concerns among Labour MPs. It has also forced the Treasury to rely on a mix of smaller measures, including extending the income tax threshold freeze, limiting salary sacrifice schemes, and introducing new levies on gambling, high-value property and electric vehicle use. Although Reeves insists there will be no return to austerity, officials warn that some non-protected departments could face cuts later. Analysts say the government is working with very limited fiscal room as the UK faces high debt and the highest borrowing costs in the G7.
She's inherited a very difficult position: high debt, low growth, an increase in interest rates and inflation. But there are some mistakes she's clearly made. So firstly, constraining herself by ruling out income tax increases in the manifesto, I think was a large mistake. The second big mistake, I'd say, is leaving herself with a wafer-thin fiscal headroom in the last budget. So that's the reason we're kind of coming back this time round to talking about big tax increases.
Meanwhile, protesters in London have called for a wealth tax on the super rich, a measure Reeves has ruled out. She will deliver her statement at 12:30 local time in London.
China has said its strongest yuan fixing in over a year, signaling confidence following a high-profile call between President Xi and Donald Trump aimed at easing tensions and boosting economic cooperation. The move comes as markets anticipate U.S. rate cuts and Beijing works to steady its currency and reassure investors. Our correspondent Mahnur Maktoum has more.
The People's Bank of China has set the daily yuan fixing at 7.0796 per USD, which is the strongest and most valuable the yuan has been in over a year. The decision comes just days after the highly publicized phone call between Donald Trump and President Xi Jinping, during which both sides showed efforts to stabilize ties and expand economic cooperation, including China's purchase of additional U.S. agricultural goods. By guiding the yuan stronger, Beijing is projecting confidence at a moment when Washington and Beijing are tentatively easing tensions, creating an environment in which both sides want to avoid currency volatility that could complicate trade discussions. The timing also aligns with growing expectations of Federal Reserve rate cuts, which could weaken the dollar and naturally support yuan appreciation. Although China's underlying economic fundamentals remain subdued with sluggish growth, weak domestic demand, and limited external capital, the decision shows a strategic policy choice to maintain yuan stability and support investor confidence. For China and global markets, a stronger yuan carries several implications. Exporters may face tighter margins, but importers and foreign currency denominated debt holders benefit. Mahnur Maktoum, A News, Beijing.
Tuesday's Champions League matches left fans talking with headline-grabbing results. Two major stories: Chelsea's historic win over Barcelona and Manchester City's unexpected home defeat.
Chelsea secured a commanding 3-0 victory over a 10-man Barcelona at Stamford Bridge. The scoring opened in the 27th minute with an own goal from Jules Koundé. After the break, 18-year-old Estevão Willian Almeida de Oliveira Gonçalves produced a stunning solo run to double the lead, and Liam Delap added the third in the 73rd minute to seal the result. Chelsea head coach Enzo Maresca said the win was important, but stressed nothing is settled yet. Barcelona boss Hansi Flick said an early red card changed everything, but he remains positive about the upcoming matches. Araujo was sent off in the key moment that swung the game. Manchester City 2 Leverkusen. Tuesday's shock result came at the Etihad. Pep Guardiola's radical lineup changes backfired as City lost 2-2 to Bayer Leverkusen, ending their 23-game home unbeaten run in the competition. Guardiola accepted full responsibility for the defeat. Too many changes, it cost us dearly, he admitted. Other results of the day: Benfica beat Ajax 2-0. Union SG defeated Galatasaray 1-0 in Istanbul. Okan Buruk criticised the referee for a major error. Borussia Dortmund thrashed Villarreal 4-0. Juventus defeated Bodo Glimt 3-2 in Norway. Marseille beat Newcastle 2-1. Napoli overcame Karabag 2-0. Athletic Bilbao Club and Slavia Praha played out a goalless draw in Prague. Wednesday features a huge clash as Arsenal host Bayern Munich. We'll continue to bring you all the key updates from Europe's top competition.
Now we'll take a short break. Right after the break, we'll discuss the deepening economic fallout from Brexit and what the latest £90 billion blow means for British households and the wider economy. See you shortly.
And welcome to Primetime. What a show we've got lined up for you. In a complex world, clarity is power. Two hours Live, diplomacy dissected in a spin-free environment. That's Prime Time with me, Guy Schoen, weekdays on A News.
Inside Politics delves deeply into the heart of global issues shaping our world today. Join me for your go-to source of political analysis from across the region and beyond.
It's often said the world never sleeps, but who's ready to wake you up with all you need to know about what is happening across the globe and in the region?
We are. Daybreak is live every morning, bringing you a complete wrap-up of the stories from overnight and all the news already happening in the world.
The biggest global headlines, the key regional developments, the must-read stories shaping the day.
We show them, we discuss them, we guide you through their meaning. We give you the news and a first look at the key headlines.
I'm Nadia Jani.
And I'm Lou Brown.
Join us, it's Daybreak here at A News.
Welcome to A News, unfiltered news and analysis from the region and beyond. From Washington to Beijing, Tehran to Kabul, to Tbilisi to Tashkent. Hello, I'm Jay. That's challenges.
Today is the third.
We're with you 24/7, taking you live to the front lines of the day's biggest stories. Welcome to Gabala. Hi, Gandhi. One important note to this. I'm here.
Azerbaijan and Armenia.
Hello, we are recording the 8th of November.
Reporting from Paris,
Dar es Salaam,
Tel Aviv,
Washington,
London,
Moscow,
Kyiv,
Berlin,
Rio de Janeiro, Beijing, Bangkok, Tbilisi,
Tashkent, Almaty, Kazakhstan,
Port Sudan, Tehran, Islamabad, Istanbul,
Kabul for A News.
Welcome back to A News. Brexit's economic impact appears far worse than previously estimated. A new study suggests the UK is losing up to £90 billion a year in tax revenue, with the average Briton now thousands of pounds worse off, as pressure mounts on the UK government to fix the broken relationship with Europe. We'll look at what these numbers mean for households, markets and the wider economy. Joining me from London is Ricardo Evangelista, financial market analyst at Active Trades. Mr. Evangelista, welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, Bakhtiar. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks. So, Ricardo, let's start with the headline figure, £90 billion lost annually. How credible is this estimate and what is driving such a large gap?
Well, it's an estimate. It's always difficult to quantify the impact of such a dramatic change like Brexit was for the UK and for Europe. So the UK was totally integrated into Europe. Europe was the UK's main trade partner, and also at a human level, there was a very strong integration with people from the UK traveling to Europe and vice versa. And of course, Brexit disrupted all of this, and it's very difficult to allocate a monetary value to the impact this is having. However, the 90 billion lost in tax revenue does not seem totally unreasonable. I mean, there have been previous estimates from the Office for Budget stability. For example, in the UK, that estimate the impact at about 4% of the GDP that is costing the UK. So that figure does not sound totally without merit. Yeah. So I mean, in terms of moving forward on this, it's a challenge because the current political landscape continues to hinder the scope for a serious and mature debate on this. So there is a political agenda that is very much focused on national identity now in the UK, with strong ramifications to immigration policies as well, and this somehow blurs the vision and the ability that would allow for a discussion on reintegration of the UK in the EU. So it's difficult at the moment to see a solution for the situation.
Mr. Evangelista, the study suggests the average Briton is significantly worse off since Brexit. What are the main factors behind this decline in individual living standards?
Well, I mean, one of the main factors is the loss of trade. So trade between the UK and the EU used to be frictionless, and now we have tariffs. We have also border checks on imports and exports, and all of this makes it harder for trade to occur between the two blocks. As we know, the UK is traditionally an economy that is very much focused on exports. It's a very open economy, and also on services, and both exports and services suffered. Exports because of what I just mentioned, the increase in friction in trade, and services suffered because of the loss of passporting rights for financial services, for example, to continue to operate across Europe. Therefore, the impact on UK businesses has been big. There's been a loss of revenues for businesses, a loss of investment that results from this, creation of jobs, spending, and all of this sort of creates a domino effect that ends up reflecting then in what you mentioned earlier, that is the reduction in tax incomes for the UK Treasury.
So is the UK's export performance recovering at all, or are we still seeing long-term structural decline?
I think, look, the way things stand at the moment, as I said earlier, the political landscape does not really allow right now for us to look into a long-term solution. I think what we're seeing now increasingly between the UK and the EU, rather than talking about integration, we're talking about pragmatic cooperation, especially on fields like defense. We also have trade, we have technology. So all of these are common challenges for the UK and the EU, and with some pragmatism we are seeing greater cooperation. The hope here is that in time this greater cooperation will allow for a more mature debate, and hopefully, from my perspective, then lead into greater integration and help to resolve this decline in trade that affects the long-term prospects for the UK economy.
Ricardo, how has Brexit affected the financial services sector, especially London's standing as a global hub?
Look, it's undeniable that Brexit has had a massive impact on the financial sectors. The financial services industry was the main contributor for the UK Treasury, and the loss of passporting rights, for example, for UK-based firms to operate across Europe has forced many of these firms to set up subsidiaries in Europe, and this represents a loss in business for the UK. So at the same time, with the loss of political influence in Brussels, I guess it is fair to assume that there's also been some loss of attractiveness for London as a main hub for firms from around the world to come and set up in Europe. So they used to choose London as their center for action in Europe, and now with the departure of the UK from the European Union and what I've just mentioned earlier about the loss of passporting rights, what we're seeing is that many of these firms no longer set up in the UK. So this also represents an impact on the ability of the UK to generate income from financial services.
And also, what impact are we seeing on foreign direct investment flows into the UK?
Well, we are seeing an impact definitely because there's less firms setting up in the UK, and therefore there's less clearance going through in the UK. But I wouldn't be able to give you exact numbers on this. But there is definitely an impact in terms of a reduction of investment flows into the UK financial services and clearing services as well.
And also, how are businesses adapting to the new trade and regulatory landscape, and who is being hit the hardest?
Look, I think businesses that export, that rely on exports, are being hit the hardest. The UK is about 20 kilometers away from Europe, so there's just a little bit of sea between the two, and therefore Europe and the EU is obviously the main market for UK exports. What we're seeing is that businesses that traditionally were able to export to the European Union without any friction and without having to pay any duties now are having to deal with massive amounts of paperwork, and also have seen their costs increasing, not just because of the other bureaucracy, but also because of some tariffs that have also been applied. At the same time, it's not only businesses that export, it's also agriculture has also suffered. It's a sector that in the UK was highly impacted by Brexit, and that is also being a cause for concern, because once again it impacts the ability of the UK to generate income, and also so this crisis in the agricultural sector caused by Brexit is having also a social impact in the UK. So not a positive development there.
Mr. Evangelista, how, and finally, what actions should policymakers consider right now to stabilize the UK's economic trajectory?
Well, it's a good day to be asking that question. Today, of course, is the day that Rachel Reeves, the UK Chancellor, will present the fiscal budget. Look, it's a very difficult game for the British authorities here to try to balance the book. So Rachel Reeves today will have to please a number of different customers, let's call them that. So it will have to please the financial markets, and in particular the bond market. And we all remember what happened when Liz Truss and Kwasi Boateng presented their famous or infamous budget, and how the markets reacted. So there's an element of risk there. At the same time, Rachel Reeves will also have to please the electorate, so the public at large, will have to please businesses, and will have to please her own party. So it's quite a difficult game of trying to balancing things here, and to keep expenditure low, to try to increase revenue. This will please the bond market. At the same time, we'll have to increase investment, which will then carry businesses through the increase in investment in infrastructure, etc. We'll have to please the public, and to please the public, we'll have, for example, to improve social conditions, and abolishing the two-child benefit cap, for example, raising the minimum wage. And finally, we'll have to please our own party, the Labour Party, which is not entirely happy with the stand. So it's very difficult at the moment in the UK to see a solution that will please everyone, but somehow Rachel Reeves will need to pull that out of the hat, and we all wait to see. I think that making sure that the financial markets have a stable perspective on the UK economy is fundamental, because if not, the cost of borrowing will increase massively, and it will be terrible. And at the same time, making sure that there is still enough investment in infrastructure, for example, and business-friendly measures that will allow business to invest again, to create new jobs, and of course make sure that there isn't a big mutiny in the UK Labour Party, especially in Parliament, to avoid political instability, which would once again be detrimental in terms of the financial markets reaction. So quite a complicated setup here, and we look forward to see what Rachel Reeves will announce today at 12:30 in the UK.
Riccardo Evangelista, thank you very much for your insights and for joining us today. Thanks a lot.
Sure, it was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
After the break, we'll take a look at the key stories shaping the region. Stay tuned.
Inside Politics delves deeply into the heart of global issues shaping our world today. Join me for your go-to source of political analysis from across the region and beyond.
On World Business, we meet the boardroom leaders making market-moving decisions. And find out how leaders are dealing with continuous technological disruption.
Shaken to its very foundation.
It's often said the world never sleeps, but who's ready to wake you up with all you need to know about what is happening across the globe and in the region?
We are. Daybreak is live every morning, bringing you a complete wrap-up of the stories from overnight and all the news already happening in the world.
The biggest global headlines, the key regional developments, the must-read stories shaping the day.
We show them, we discuss them, we guide you through their meaning. We give you the news and a first look at the key headlines.
I'm Nadia Jani.
And I'm Lou Brown.
Join us, it's Daybreak here at A News.
Welcome to A News, unfiltered news and analysis from the region and beyond. From Washington to Beijing, Tehran to Kabul, to Tbilisi to Tashkent. Hello, I'm Jay. Challenges.
Today is the third.
We're with you 24/7, taking you live to the front lines of the day's biggest stories. Welcome to Gabala. One important note to this. I'm here.
Azerbaijan and Armenia.
Hello, we are reporting.
Reporting from Paris,
Dar es Salaam, Tel Aviv,
Washington,
London,
Moscow,
Kyiv, Berlin,
Rio de Janeiro, Beijing, Bangkok, Tbilisi, Tashkent, Almaty, Kazakhstan, Port Sudan, Tehran, Islamabad, Istanbul,
Kabul, Port A News.
Well, hello and welcome to Primetime. What a show we've got lined up for you. In a complex world, clarity is power. Two hours live, diplomacy dissected in a spin-free environment. That's Prime Time with me, Guy Schoen, weekdays on A News.
Welcome back to A News. Now let's take a closer look at the key stories shaping the region. Tensions are rising along the Afghanistan-Pakistan border after deadly overnight airstrikes. The United Nations is urging restraint and respect for international law as both sides exchange sharp statements. Our correspondent Tamim Bahis has the latest from Kabul.
It was just after midnight on Tuesday morning when the airstrikes hit Afghanistan's Khost and Kunar provinces. According to the United Nations Assistance Mission in Afghanistan, at least 10 civilians were killed, most of them children. Another 6 people were injured. In a statement, UNAMA called for, quote, respect for international law to protect civilians and prevent civilian harm. The mission has urged all parties to avoid further escalation. The strikes believed to have been carried out by the Pakistani military prompted a swift and furious response from Afghanistan. Officials condemned the attacks as a violation of Afghanistan's airspace and sovereignty, calling them a clear breach of international norms. Afghanistan also accused Pakistan of acting on what it described as incorrect information, saying such operations bring nothing but, quote, disgrace and failure to Pakistan's military establishment. In its statement, the Afghan authorities asserted that defending the country's territory and people is its legitimate right, promising what it called an appropriate response at the right time. A spokesman of the Pakistan's military denied involvement in the incident, stating that when we strike, we own it. Despite this, Afghan officials insist that Pakistan was responsible for the airstrike. But tonight, the international community is watching closely, concerned that any further retaliation could deepen instability along a tense and heavily militarized border. Tamim Bahis in Kabul, A News.
Kazakhstan says it will deliver the final report on last year's Azal plane crash near Aktau airport by the end of the year. The country's deputy transport minister says the investigation into the crash is ongoing, with specialists carrying out deeper technical examinations. Preliminary findings were released 3 months after the accident, but officials say it's too early to set a final timeline. The Embraer 190 flying from Baku to Grozny went down on 25th of December last year, killing 38 people. Armenia has paused negotiations to buy India's Tejas fighter jet after a deadly crash at the Dubai Air Show. The move raises questions over the aircraft's future and its export prospects.
Armenia has suspended talks to buy 12 Indian-made Tejas fighter jets after one of the aircraft crashed during an air display at the Dubai Air Show. The crash killed its pilot, Wing Commander Namanch Sial. The Jerusalem Post reports that Yerevan had been in advanced discussions with the Indian government and manufacturer HAL on a $1.2 billion agreement. The deal would have marked the Tejas jet's first major export sale. The Tejas was designed to replace India's aging MiG-21 fleet, and only 40 units have been delivered so far. Investigators are still examining what caused the Dubai crash, but the incident has already raised concerns about the program's safety record. If Armenia withdraws completely, key suppliers involved in the jet's development could face substantial financial losses at a time when India is trying to secure new buyers.
Leaders from several post-Soviet states are preparing to meet in Kyrgyzstan for a key security summit. Our correspondent in Almaty, Fariza Kalimurzina, reports on the preparations, the expected agenda, and the regional significance of the Collective Security Treaty Organization's meeting.
In Kyrgyzstan, temporary traffic restrictions are in place in Bishkek and the Chuy region from November 25 to 27. The measures are linked to a session of the Collective Security Treaty Organization's Security Council. The Ministry of Internal Affairs has urged drivers not to leave vehicles on the roadside, to expect delays and to follow traffic police instructions. Schools in the capital have been moved to online learning during these dates. Higher education institutions are also operating remotely while the summit is taking place. Security in Bishkek is being maintained by around 4,000 police officers with heightened measures at the venues and surrounding areas. The summit will focus on key issues such as regional security, combating illegal drug trafficking, and managing migration. Leaders are also expected to discuss who will take over as Secretary General for the next 3 years term. The current Secretary General's mandate ends next year. And Kyrgyz Deputy Secretary General Talatbek Masadikov is among the potential candidates. The session is scheduled for November 27th. Among the world leaders attending the summit is Russian President Vladimir Putin, who has arrived in the capital on an official visit. After a series of bilateral meetings, he will join the discussions alongside other leaders, including those from Belarus, Kazakhstan and Tajikistan. And Armenia, which suspended its participation in 2024, has once again confirmed it will not send a delegation. The CSTO, established in the early 2000s on the basis of the Collective Security Treaty, is intended to maintain peace and collective defense. Member states have different perspectives on its role, but previous meetings have highlighted the importance of coordination. And Kazakhstan's President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev has described the CSTO as an important element of regional security. All eyes in Bishkek are now on the summit, with leaders preparing to meet and discuss issues that could shape the organization's agenda for years to come. Fariza Kalimurzina, Almaty, A-News.
The Georgian Prime Minister has asked Pope Leo XIV to consider a visit to Georgia ahead of the nation's yearly celebration on when they converted to Christianity. A-News' Nini Nikolashvili has more from Tbilisi.
The Georgian Prime Minister's audience with Pope Leo XIV at the Vatican marked one of the most symbolic foreign visits of Irakli Korbachidze's term so far. During the meeting, the Prime Minister extended formal invitation for the Pope to visit Georgia, an offer that, if accepted, would carry significant historical resonance. Korbachidze highlighted that next year Georgia will celebrate 17 centuries since the nation's conversion to Christianity, a milestone that, he said, makes a potential papal visit especially meaningful. He emphasized that such a visit would not only honor the country's Christian heritage, but also strengthen relations between Georgia and the Holy See. According to the Prime Minister, the discussion with Pope Leo XIV was very interesting, touching on both spiritual and political themes. Korbachidze thanked the Vatican for its long-standing support for Georgia's sovereignty and territorial integrity since the country restored independence more than 3 decades ago. He underlined that this support remains crucial at a time when Georgia faces continued regional challenges. The meeting also focused on issues the Georgian government has increasingly emphasized in recent years: the protection of Christian and traditional values. Gorbachidze said the conversation included what he described as the global struggle to preserve these values, highlighting the Georgian government's position that cultural and spiritual identity must be defended amid international pressures. Tbilisi's outreach to the Vatican also carries diplomatic weight. For the Georgian government, strengthening ties with the Catholic world's highest authority is part of a broader effort to diversify international partnerships while reinforcing the image of Georgia as a nation deeply rooted in its Christian identity. Whether Pope Leo XIV will accept the invitation remains unknown, but officials in Tbilisi say that they are hopeful. Nini Nikolaishvili, Tbilisi, A News.
That's all we have for now. Thank you for joining us and stay tuned to A News for more.